Hello, my name is Katherine Whelchel, and I'm here to present today on Boeing's 737 MAX crisis. Now, this crisis was more than just a normal business incident, it was a complete tragedy. In October of 2018, Boeing's new model, the 737 MAX, that had been in operation for about a year but was still fairly new, took off in a flight from Indonesia and it ended up crashing into the sea, killing all of the inhabitants on board. 5 months later, the exact same 737 MAX Boeing airplane model crashed in Ethiopia, killing all of the inhabitants. Now, this shows how some business crises don't just end in financial loss or loss of reputation, but the loss of lives as well. And that is why crisis management is so crucial to all businesses, especially for businesses to be aware of warning signals so that they can avoid crises, not just financial ones, but ones like this where people's lives were put at risk and eventually lost. So, with both crashes, after the second crash, Boeing's first response was that they grounded the planes for investigation. During the investigations, what was found that it was the MCAS system that was newly installed in this new model that was the cause for both crashes. Now, what this system was is it was supposed to help the planes from stalling and it would engage itself. But what happened when it engaged, when it was not supposed to engage in both flights, it would tip the airplane's nose down, something that the pilots could not recover from. And in the second crash, the airplane at 700 miles per hour crashed into the ground because of this faulty system engaging. Now, to start off, the warning signals for this crisis for Boeing were clear. Sources say that Boeing was potentially aware of this system being faulty, that sometimes it could engage when it was not supposed to. And the training for pilots for flying these new airplanes was simply a tablet course rather than a full flight training like is usually required for new models of airplanes. So, adding this all together, if Boeing potentially knew of this system, that is a warning signal for a crisis. Another warning signal was the continual comments and complaints from employees. The employees, it stated in sources that they were aware of the situation and they continually complained to the higher ups when the 737 MAX came onto the market and began to be flown by commercial airlines. Now, these are clear warning signals. We read it in our textbook, it's what we've learned through this course that Boeing should have recognized, should have taken heed to, so that this crisis and the over 300 people that lost their lives would not have died. Going out of the warning signals and into the crisis response from Boeing, after the crisis happened, sometimes they're inevitable, they sneak up on businesses, but what's most important is after it happens, how you proceed. Businesses have to be careful and crucial because if they respond well and timely, they can actually build their reputation and build up more trust within their customers. This, unfortunately, was not the case for Boeing. It took a full 26 days for the CEO, David Muhlenberg, to offer an apology. He also stood up and took credit for both crashes. He said these were the plane's faults. It was because of that MCAS faulty system. Now, just because he took credit, though, everything you hear from Boeing after the crash, rather than them adding apologies, talking about what they were doing to make the plane safer, how they were responding to the friends and families, all they did was continue to defend their airplanes while also stating that it was the airplane's fault for the crash. So this was mixed signals, it was not connecting, and it actually ended up instilling fear into customers as well as the friends and families of the loved ones who passed away. Boeing did not reach out to those people at all. They have come up, and you read in sources that the families were hurt that Boeing made no apology except for that one general public apology. Now, this is a big misstep for Boeing because if they had addressed the friends and families directly, if they had handled the problem, if they had been outspoken with what they were doing to ensure the safety and the security of their passengers, they actually could have deepened the trust of their customers, but instead they have lost a lot of reputation. Recently, they hired on a public relation company to help them fix this reputation problem, which it began as just a crisis, a terrible crisis, and it also turned into a public relation crisis as well, based on the way that Boeing handled it. Now, we see that Boeing's response to this crisis was not effective at all. They seemed to offer the bare minimum, and there seemed to be no organization as to how they were going to approach it, what they were going to communicate to the public, to their customers, and how they were going to make it clear that they are making an effort to bring these planes back in safely to make sure that this never happens again. So where we're at today is Boeing is still trying to gain its reputation back. It's working on the 737 MAX airplanes because they want to bring it back into operation. However, we are really unsure if Boeing will be able to recover from this crisis, especially since their response was not well done whatsoever. Through this entire crisis, we see how important crisis management is. First, to know the warning signals and how to listen to them so that the crisis does not happen. And then, second, when a crisis does happen, how to have a set plan, how to have structure to respond gently and strategically in the face of a crisis so that it can actually be turned around to better the reputation of the company rather than hurting it even more. This is a really sad tragedy to talk about, but I picked it because it really hit home the importance of crisis management, as well as it was definitely major and it is very relevant to today. Thank you so much.